traditional sense, requires solution to a fairly complex problem because you need to forecast the dynamics of a flying ball, right? So you need physics. You need to know how the air frictions influences the path of a ball. So a lot of the supply chain planning problems are fairly difficult planning problem. And in fact, if you look at a lot of the system, they do multi-period planning, so they project to the future and turning the problem into a much bigger problem, gigantic problem. So, no, but if you use the supply chain visibility, you actually decompose the problem into tiny steps. At every step, you just look at the ball, and then you decide what to do with your current position, and then you move a bit. So with visibility, with the human actually turn a fairly complex problem into very small pieces, and in each piece they use very simple heuristic to solve it, and then put together they get a good solution. And in fact, this is why I think this is the exciting for the control tower supply chain planning era, because there's actually a chance to solve a very big, large-scale problem with this mindset about dissecting the problems into tiny slices and using simple idea for the tiny slice. I mean, if you look at I show you the TT example. If you look at the TT setting in a city, the scale of the problem is already very huge, because if you were to do demand forecasting and then deploy the vehicles to the right place, you find that the problem scale becomes very difficult. But we are quite happy with our approach, because with our approach we actually can solve much bigger scale problem, because we don't project to the future. We just do a real time based on the current positioning, current situation in the supply chain, and current performance. We tweak the systems. So there are ways to overcome the scale problem through clever, I think, algorithmic engineering. I hope this answers your questions.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that emphasizes a lot of what you said. Emphasizes what we discussed yesterday. Why so visibility and segmentation of problems, or decomposing the problem into smaller steps, is quite important.
Yeah.
I think this was actually our major discussion yesterday, and thank you for bringing it up today too, because I think this is the emphasis of the whole 2 days, is creating that visibility and from that actionable intelligence. Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll hand back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Bob, I was thinking, since we only started about an hour ago, should we just continue with the next session? And if we can be on time with the next session, then we can have a slightly longer lunch break.
Yeah, we should be happy to do that.
I see Kelvin is already with us. Kelvin, are you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So if that's the case, then Kelvin, you and Xiu Hui will be presenting next, right?
That's right. Xiu Hui will be leading about the conversation. I will do the initial introduction.
Thank you very much. Would you like to take over then?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning everyone. Can you guys see my screen? Am I sharing the screen?
Yes, we can, Xiu Hui.
Okay, thank you.
But Xiu Hui, you may want to change the mode.
Okay.
Yeah, we are seeing your notes as well.
Let me see. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Hi, I'm Xiu Hui. I'm a customer advisor from SES. Together with me, we have Kelvin from the SES Global IoT division. So I'm sure you guys are familiar with Kelvin, as he has shared about the situation awareness dashboard and demand-driven supply chain analytics yesterday. So today we are going to talk about another topic. We like to introduce a concept about geospatial analysis. We like to bring in another perspective on how we can use information that contains time and location to perform analysis and do all the analytics possible using all these information layers that you see. So today we're going to look to some what geospatial analysis is all about and what yes.
Your slide is not up yet. If you are talking to your slides, we are not seeing it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I already tried sharing. Okay.
Okay, let's go to presenter.
Is it
Yeah, it's good. That's right. It's good now. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I thought I already said thanks. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the topic on geospatial analysis and how all these different layers of information can add another layer, add more intelligence to your analytics. And hopefully this could inspire you on the control tower functionality and the concept that we will all be working towards to at the end of the day. Okay. Just some food for thought here. So have you ever looked at a map of crime in your city and tried to figure out what areas have high crime rates? Or perhaps you also have explored other types of information like school location, parks, or demographics. You try to determine the best location to buy your home. So if you have used like a GPS system or a mapping app on your phone, you are probably familiar with geospatial intelligence. So whenever you look at a map, you usually start turning that map into information by analyzing its content. Like you look at the patterns, assessing trends, or even making decisions. So this is what our eyes and our minds do naturally whenever we look at a map. So with this geospatial analysis, this technology, it can also be used to map to apply to other use cases, such as analyzing the spread of diseases, understanding the spread of long satellite images or IoT, and geotagging. So when we talk about geospatial analytics, it is to use all this data from all these different kinds of technology, from GPS, location sensors, social media, mobile devices, and even these data visualizations for us to gain insights into relationships between variables and uncover patterns and trends that we have not discovered before from traditional data. So here are just two main types of geospatial data, which covers vector data and raster data. So as you can see on the left-hand side, vector data is actually data in which points, lines, and polygons represent features. It could represent features like properties, cities, roads, mountains, and bodies of water. Raster data, on the other hand, on the right-hand side, is pixelated weighted cells which are identified accordingly to rows and columns. So it could create imagery that are substantially more complex, such as photographs and satellites. Here are just some, I want to bring in the concept of map layers. So features and layers are actually the basis of all modern maps. So layers are how GIS, which is Geographic Information Systems, programs organize and group all these different vector and raster data together to visualize data on maps and off screen. So just for example, let's say you are building a new shopping mall in a town that's going to be developed. So in order for this shopping mall to be able to build in a prime location to attract customers, to ensure there's adequate land for space to build all this whole shopping mall, and to understand the demographics and the amenities around that region, around that neighborhood intelligence, into whether this is the prime location. So this is why it is important for geospatial analysis and combining maps with analytics so important for us to combine all this different information together. Yeah. Okay. So what are some examples of geospatial data? So as mentioned earlier, it could, as you see the first chart here is vector and attribute data. So they contain descriptive information about a location, like points, lines, and polygons, as you can see. So here are like some drainage canals and some land polygons that you see. And in the middle, you can see is some aerial or satellite imagery. And usually they are high resolution images of our world taken from above. And probably some unconventional data you might not relate it to geospatial data. It could be cell phone data like your course plotted by satellite or based on GPS location, or even social media data like social media posts that data science can actually study and identify emerging trends. So of course, when I talk about all these different examples of geospatial data, they all must come when we talk about layering, net layering, and web layers. They all should come from the same perspective in the sense that they should be coming from the same angle, looking at the same longitude and latitude, so that we can compare each of them and layer them on top of another to combine all this information. Okay. So why is it crucial for us, and what does it even mean to do? So now everyone is talking about a topic around big data, AI, machine learning, and like deep learning. I'm sure everyone have heard of, and many people are talking about it. So companies have been aggressively reinventing themselves as new technology continues to mature. We all know the future is in data, and the most part of it here is actually the real-time processing of it. So it is crucial for us to have the capability to capture, monitor, and rapidly process all this information, especially if it's real time. So for us to act and make decisions quickly and timely. So usually, so our brains are often our brains organize information based on time and place. But for many organizations nowadays, information are still confined to rows and columns like our tables. So although this makes like reporting fast and easy, but it may not necessarily make it more insightful. So with this geospatial analytics, it is now possible for organizations to add the context of time and location to traditional data, and then we can create maps that show changes over time and exactly where these changes take place. So this maps makes it easier for our eye to recognize patterns that were previously buried in spreadsheets, such as distance, proximity, and affiliation. So regardless of what industry we are in, and I think it's one of the most prominent focus points of the digital transformation. So we know that the idea of layering information might not be on maps might not be new to you, but it is the amount of data, the type of data, and the speed of processing all this data presents many new possibilities that we can uncover inside. So most of the data that we consume in the location contains location information, such as the GPS data, latitude, longitude. All this information that we interact with contains and measures location data. So just example like your buildings, vehicles, your people, even your rivers and mountains. Some of them are stationary and some of them changes every time. So due to the increasing adoption of Internet of Things and digital transformation progress, we can now connect billions of devices to the Internet of Things, to mobile devices, location sensors, social media, and even cars and connected devices, all this data. So business users like yourself can access to all this unprecedented amounts of data, of business data, including a variety of geospatial data. So visualizing how all these locations of these things interact with each other can influence your business goals and then generate tremendous insights. So today, all these IoT use cases can be applied in multiple verticals. So it can help in like transportation, government, retail, energy, supply chain, insurance, healthcare. So for example, like in the retail industry, Retailers can make use of the location data to suggest relevant local marketing offers, design floor plans, or even arrange the product shelf placements, and also suggest, for example, when you shop on Amazon or even Shopee, sometimes after you purchase, okay, so why do we want to incorporate geospatial analytics into maybe control tower concept? So geospatial analytics adds the time and location to traditional types of data, as I mentioned earlier, and this gives additional context to allow a complete picture of events. So insight that might have been lost in our massive spreadsheet in Excel can now be revealed in a very easily, visually nice patterns and images on our maps. So geospatial analysis can use all this data to build maps, graphs, and compute statistics and make complex relationships more understandable. Significant improvement in IoT sensors technology, cloud ingestion, and streaming analytics enable all these location data to be located and analyzed in real time from connected devices. So, for example, business application can also be enriched with geographical data from GIS, geographical information, such as S3 ArcGIS. So they can now overlay business data on maps. It can let you see events and trends within the context more recognizable and easier to understand right now. So perhaps from the logistic and supply chain angle, with the benefit of GIS data or geographical information system layer, it gives us this extra layer of information. So let's say, for example, we are delivering an important cargo from point A to point B. So maybe from a map which location is 10 km or something, for example, that we need to cover. So to us, this 10 km is just a number. But however, if we can get other information like the longitude and latitude and also the area, the polygons, the mountains, the trees around it, we can now add time, gradient, and speed into consideration. And this gives another layer. So for example, you can see that, okay, for example, in the next 5 km, there will be an upslope. And this gives us another angle and of viewing how we can get from the point A to point B. And then now with that, we can now gain a better foresight with all these different information. And now we can plan our location better from point A to point B. And since we know that it's a steep slope, we might need to for example, if we are on an automotive, we might need to use more fuel to push the automotive harder or even climb harder. So with that in mind, what we can do is that we can use that foresight to discover alternative routes. Maybe you can go longest distance, but a slope that is more, the gradient is lower, so for us it's easier to overcome. And then we can now move on to how we can develop target solutions based on the insights that we have gained and the better foresight that we have. So location-based analysis can help us understand the location aspects. So for example, as what I mentioned earlier, so now that we know, maybe perhaps we will see that there will be a big reverse or there might be a jam ahead. So from a targeted solution point of view, we can now look at where we can drive to avoid these jams or rivers by looking for alternatives or using bridges. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is where I'd like to chip in a little bit here. Okay, and then we connect to the logistic context, right? Okay, so this 3 points, right, okay, in a way encapsulates the first part of the sharing, right? The emphasis on the importance of layering and also what geospatial data is and therefore what kind of analysis can perform. Now the fundamental, right, okay, is when we look into a real-time logistic sort of operation itself. Okay, whether you're using the traveler salesman problem or the Chinese postman problem, okay, the point is in the past, right, okay, more often than not, you have got a set of static data sets, and then you're trying to optimize your route for Okay, these are all some of the common problems, right? Okay, that has been put and then resolved, right? Okay, using mathematical formulas. Okay, so when you have got a logistic operation company, okay, you also will use the same sort of an approach, right? Okay, day after day, and from there, right? Okay, you'll see this is how you plot the line, and therefore this is how you assign the couriers to do the last mile. Okay, because the routing, right? Okay, to a large extent is standard. Okay, that's how postal service does it. That's how courier company does it. But indeed, right, okay, as how Professor Joe mentioned it, and also from our own experience itself, the dynamism and also the real timeliness, right, okay, especially when it comes to customer expectation, has changed dramatically. Okay, long gone, right, okay, are the days when the courier tells you that, dear sir, I'll be delivering the parcel, right, okay, and your delivery time, right, okay, is expected to be between 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. today. I mean, seriously, what's the point of telling me that it's going to come 9 p.m. at 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. today? That's the whole day, isn't it? Okay, so this is where we start to see the distinction between a superior player, a superior service provider, versus one that is not. Okay, so in a peacetime or in a day-to-day e-commerce operation, the role of data analytics, right, okay, is actually a continuous process, and it's also not tedious, right, okay, as in when Siwei described this, it might sound like there's a lot of decision that the user has to undertake in order to know what is the targeted solution. The fundamental is it is not. Okay, the systems, right, okay, are actually automated. The systems are actually running all the time with more inputs, right? Okay, actually there is also a rigorous process of recomputation so that the updates, right, okay, are captured. So I think one of the best examples, right, okay, is when there's a traffic jam. Right, we see how the jam really provide you with some of the calculation as to which road to avoid and what is the anticipated time. So think along those lines, right? Okay, then we know that actually it's possible to use a lot of the dynamic data feed, right? Okay, to give you postulation and recommendation, right? Okay, in terms of alternates. Okay, so when you think about the examples of such use cases, right, that is directly around us, then we'll be able to truly appreciate how geospatial analytics has been used around us. Okay, and more importantly, right, okay, is when you layer several dimensions one on top of another. Okay, so just now we heard the example of Didi, right? Okay, actually Didi, Gojek, just for every one of them, right? Okay, uses the same approach. Okay, is to use all these layers of appreciation, and then you score against basically the condition that you want to meet. Okay, so it could be the best delivery guy, it could be the highest quality one, it could be the one that's available. So all these parameters and all these different computational considerations, right, okay, should have been fed into a system. So just like using the examples that we showed yesterday, it's not a case of what is the answer you want. Okay, so you run the system, right, okay, to provide you with the right answers. Okay, and the role of data analytics, geospatial analytics, therefore, right, okay, is really to do these three things for you. Okay, is to give you some of the more engaging insights, give you a better foresight, and then recommend the targeted solutions. So that is how the geospatial analytics, along with other form of data analytics, will come together in order to solve problems for you. Okay, later we can touch on a little bit more, right, okay, as Siwei goes through the second part of the sharing itself. But I'll come back to some of the questions that Mr. Ismail asked earlier, okay, pertaining to really if it is a humanitarian logistics situation and it is out of line of sight, it's difficult to assess, then what will we do? Okay, so I think we'll back on that question or that challenge, right, okay, a little later. Okay, meanwhile, right, okay, this is where I like to chip in, right, okay, to kind of really connect what she was describing so far to actually how it's being used in logistics and operation. Right, Siwei, pass it back to you.
Thanks, Kelvin. Okay, so we will now move on to, I will share with you some use cases that SES has done around the geospatial analytics and how we can use the geospatial analytics data, geospatial data, and how we can combine with other data to uncover new insights. So this is the first use case that I will share. There is how SES accelerates sustainability and improve global outcomes through social innovation using what we do best, which is analytics, where we transform data into intelligence. So this is a use case from the Florida Department of Environment and Production, where they aim to determine the quality of the state surface and groundwater resources. So when you think of Florida, you might think of the hundreds of miles of beautiful beaches, and of course their lakes, their rivers, and all these beautiful natural attractions. So to preserve this beauty, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection has this need to and aim to protect their precious water resources and keep it beautiful and maintain its natural state. So how are they trying to do it? They are trying to accomplish it through monitoring their water qualities and how it changes over time, such as like tracing nitrogen and phosphorus flows, and so that it can now identify and better monitor the point or sources of pollution and see what is the current state of the overall water quality, and is there any impairment status of the state's water resources. And in any case, if really like the water is polluted or over certain threshold of the nitrogen or phosphorus flows, the department can now take actions and do the necessary measures. So the water quality monitoring of the water bodies can help to identify and better monitor these point sources of pollution to prevent like algae blooms, break tides, and other possible damaging economic and environmental outcomes. So this is how they wish, through the monitoring of the water qualities, they are able to protect human health and safety of their state. So one thing that I want to point out here is that this success of this plan is usually dependent on the accuracy and the representative of the data. So this means that whenever we do analytics, geospatial analytics, it is important for us to have the access to the right data in terms of the relevancy as well as the currency, whether the data is relevant to what to solve our current problem statement, and currency where I mean whether it is current.